All right, Lab Coat Agents, here's another LCA Elements for you, where we do a round of speed coaching. We've got my friend and business partner, Nick Baldwin, and then we like to call Mike and Long, who will be in soon, our professors, and then Dan, our communications and marketing director. Let's get going, guys. Look, this weekend I was reading, no surprise, right? But I was reading about the mind. I was reading about it's a book, it's called Limitless, one of the books that I'm reading. And he was talking about how we get bombarded by so much information. And guys, as you're listening in, go ahead and ask your questions in regards to real estate and we'll get to those. But he was talking about how we get bombarded by so many different things information-wise, right? We're drowning in information. It's like a digital deluge of things. And we as humans have up to 70,000 thoughts a day, which is a shit ton. So then how do we decide to focus on the things we focus on? And it was a simple sentence that this guy had, which said this. He says, look, we simply focus on the questions that we're asking ourselves on a daily basis. Because what happens is scientifically, our mind's reticular activating system, which is RAS, says, okay, got it. I know, Mike, I know, Nick, I know what's important to you. So I'm going to filter out every other piece of crap that's coming at you. And you're going to focus just on this because I see that you're asking questions about it. You're concerned about it. You keep on thinking about it. So that's what I'm going to focus on from your 70,000 thoughts. And so when we break it down scientifically, we start creating habits over what we think. And if we don't change these thoughts on a daily basis, you can go back a year, 2 years from now, and some people are still thinking the same thing they were thinking a year ago, 2 years ago. And so we're heading into a whole new world, guys. We need to change the way we think. We need to change our approach. We need to change our business models. But a lot of people haven't really realized that they need to. And so with that, I really want to outline this and say, scientifically, you need to be asking yourself better questions. Because now when you think of that saying, which is your life depends on the quality of questions that you ask yourself, now you understand why. Your brain, reticular activating system, is actually deciding what you focus on.
So in the spirit of better questions, the best question I can think of is, how do you actually spell reticular activator? That's
dude, just the acronym is RAS. Just go with RAS.
But it's a great topic. It's fascinating because with the reticular activator, it's really talking about relevance, right? I mean, all this information that's thrown at us every day, what's really relevant? What are you focusing on and paying attention to? And there's so many good pieces of work on that one powerful piece of the mind.
Yeah, guys. So like everybody listening in, there's Long. Thanks for being on, Long. Guys, as you're listening in, please ask your questions. We already have one up there, but go ahead and ask your questions in regards to real estate. We all have different strengths here, from Nick to Mike to Long to myself, and we'll do our best to answer it. Remember, speed coaching, so we'll bring you on and we'll ask you these questions, or you'll ask us these questions live, and we'll get going. Guys, the first question, Nick, maybe you have an answer to this one. It's from anonymous attendee. It says, Lab Coat Agents rocks. Thank you, guys. Can you recommend a website host? And we get this question probably daily. I text and email everywhere.
I mean, the only one I can really a website host as in like a company to just have your domain name at. I don't really know. Yeah, I mean, GoDaddy is the simplest one I can think of. That's the one I always go to. Maybe it's just because it's fresh in my mind, and you know, the customer service has always been great. You know, it's easy to use, and you know, that's just the one that I've usually just kind of gone towards, just because I think the customer service with them is just really top notch, and they will really spend time on the phone with you to make sure that everything is set up correctly. So in terms of my suggestion, yeah, I'll just say GoDaddy. They pretty much have everything you need, and the prices are really good.
Nice. And what about like a website, guys? A single website, or a website that has IDX with it? Anything you could think of that's inexpensive?
You can put IDX into any website, but I think in terms of the way websites look, like Squarespace is becoming the go-to for real estate websites now. I think we're moving away from WordPress because I actually think Squarespace is a heck of a lot easier to use and set up. It's more user friendly. It's more drag and drop like MailChimp, and there's no coding or anything. And I know that our YLOPO sites are Squarespace, and they look really nice. So
they do. Good point.
Yeah.
Good point, guys. But we're looking for another company. Usually, Agent Image is a good one as well. Have you guys taken a look at
Agent Image? Is a real. I mean, their websites have gotten so sexy over the years. Yeah. Really good. Really good.
I'm surprised they're still around because when we started way back, all these companies like died out, but Agent Image just like made it.
I think I used Agent Image a long time ago, and I really think that like they've really come up and they've kind of stayed ahead of the curve. They've improved their templates, and they've really started to implement a lot of the new technology that agents are looking for. So I think that's how they've stayed in business. Is they have, again, they've always kept up with the changing landscape of websites.
They definitely have. All right, so we have some suggestions here. Have you guys ever heard of Bluehost?
Mm-mm.
No?
That's a negative. But we'll look into it.
Yeah, somebody said Bluehost was good and Squarespace is good. All right, guys. So one thing I wanted to talk about, I wanted to address one question over in the Facebook group. What are some things that us four, are really focusing on in regards to changing as the world changes around us? Anything specific that you can think of that you're going to apply for your real estate business?
So I think, I'll take the lead on that one. I think, not to sound like a broken record, but, for the last many years, we've been seeing how technology is really helping, integrate with real estate. And I don't want to say change. I mean, real estate is always going to be a people business. It's always going to be a relational business. But the way that we leverage and integrate with technology, so I don't want to sound like a broken record and say, as the world is changing, now we have to look at all these different virtual technologies that are out there. So I don't want to sound like the same thing we've been saying over and over again, but at the same time, that's exactly what we're really looking at. So, we're diving deeper, even deeper now, in the use of technology, especially around communication and especially around virtual technology. Those two things we're really doubling down heavy on.
True.
It's interesting because who were we talking to? Oh, was it Mike Ferry who said that 20% of homes last year sold virtually, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a lot of homes, dude. There were almost 6 million home sales last year. 20%, that's a crap ton, right? So like, I think that it can be done and it has been done. And I honestly feel, and by the way, if you hear screaming, it's because my kids are out in the other room playing. But I think what is happening now is that, I know what's happening now is going to be the new normal, right? And I know that if you're leveraging video in your business, you just need to ramp it up and leverage more. If you haven't leveraged video or 3D tours in your business, then you need to step it up and do it, because it's going to be a very long time before we, quote, get back to normal, right? Because I don't think there's going to be a back to normal. I think that people are going to just always be thinking about the what if based on everything we're going through right now. So, and by the way, Tristan, I want to say, like, YLOPO sent us the Astor room. The Astor room. Oh,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, which is a very, very effective way to create 3D tours of your listings, and you don't need a $5,000 Matterport. You just need your phone, and it's got this stand that it rotates on, and it has a special camera. And how much is the Astor room?
$59, I think. That's the challenge. The challenge has been that they keep on running out, though.
Well, right? YLOPO has partnered with these guys, or they're thinking of partnering with them to bring virtual tours to your listings. And this is going to be the new normal, right? So I think, like Mike said, it's something that we just have to do now.
And I think regardless of what happens with the virus, I think, in the long term, habits change, habits are formed, and the longer this goes on, which habits are going to stick, or what things are you going to realize are no longer relevant. If we're selling 20% of homes virtually last year, and that's going to ramp up quite a bit this year, is it ever going to go back to an older, clunkier way of doing things? I don't think it will. I think you're going to see this stay regardless of what happens with the
Well,
market.
it's like saying one day we'll go back to actually looking up properties on a directory, right?
Right.
Unless the world blows up and computers die, that ain't going to happen.
Right.
So and look, to address the things that I'm doing specifically for the team, just so that we can gain a little bit of a different aspect of this, is this. I've decided to name the thing that we're doing. So I always believe that if you name it, whether you're a single agent, a team, a brokerage, whatever, if you name that new movement that you're going to do, it does two things. One, it's more memorable, right? Two, all of a sudden it starts becoming part of a vision or a mission, right? So I've named it, it's called Evolve 2020, right? It almost sounds like an event, but it's not. It's just for my team, simple. And that's us focusing on the things that we're going to be changing or that we're going to be focusing on this year. Because guys, the world isn't going to be the same. It isn't, right? We're going to be hit dramatically with what's happening. It's just we're 3 months to 6 months behind on everything looking like it's going to look. And so the things that we're focusing on pre-foreclosure, short sales now. So I'm training. I'm going to be, hey, this is how you approach it, because we did them big in 07 and 08 and 09. So look at foreclosures, pre-foreclosures. Let's look at for sale by owners, because all these people that are trying to look to sell their homes outside of this, let's focus in on them, but different approach. Like Nick said, if you bring up one of these and be like, look, this is how simple it is, right? And these are the things that we're doing, right?
By the way, somebody in the chat want to know what the name of that product was. Do you want to give that to him real quick again?
Yeah.
The camera?
Let me put
It's
that
called
in
an
there.
Aster Room. Asterroom, Aster Room. And so also it's funny because everything is pivoting, right? Like drive-in movie theaters are making a comeback. And I'm actually really excited about that, because I hate going to the theater and sitting in a movie with crying babies who should be home asleep and kids throwing Skittles at the back of my head. So I'm looking forward to going to a drive-in theater.
Dude,
so in a way, we're going backwards and we're also going forward.
That's so true.
Even before this happened, if you look at the companies that were coming out like Open Door and Knock and just some of the other new technologies or new ideas, really pointing out or highlighting how clunky some of the mechanics of a real estate transaction have been. Then this COVID thing happens and we start doing things much more virtually, much more intentionally, and people are not going around looking at 25 houses that they have no intention in buying. So some of these things have really started changing the mechanics of a transaction, and I think a lot of that's going to stay over time. And I think I think you're right, Tristan. I think things like investors, short sales, bulk purchases. There's going to be a lot of opportunity that present themselves, in the market to come. Because as you mentioned, what we're seeing right now is a leading indicator. As the market and economy shifts, we don't see the result of that. It doesn't show up for 90 to 120 days. So you got to look forward and prepare yourself. Like what we have going on right now is something that we didn't really pay attention to in 2006, 7, and 8. I'm not going to compare that market compared to this one, but we can compare behaviors. Like as we see things change, we have to be ready to shift proactively and beforehand, not after we're already 6 months or a year into it.
Yeah.
That's something that people need to figure out.
Yeah, that's it. And guys, this is where you create plans. And remember, as you're listening in, because we've got over 200 people watching on both things, look, ask questions here. We'll bring you in. We want to coach you. This is what it's about, speed coaching. It's kind of like speed dating. And if you've never done speed dating, it's okay. It just means we answer the questions that you have pretty quickly, and we do it as thoroughly as possible between all four of our.
But we don't go on a date with you.
No, but really, it does describe the duration of most of my relationships.
Don't speak about Mike though, because Mike will do it.
Mike's the only one out of us that could actually go on a date with you.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's so funny, guys. So I have a question for Long specifically.
Long has been sitting there so quiet and patient. He's like,
So, we asked this question to Mike Ferry long, but I want to ask it to you. And that was, what are you doing specifically to work on your mindset?
I mean, that's control everything, right? We all know that. That's so important. But one thing that I think that most of us, it's hard to make changes so quickly. And this is why it depends on what market you're in. When we talk about when the new normal or the reopening is just the same with our mind. It's hard to just turn a switch on or off. We need to think as a dial. You can dial up or you can dial down. So what Mike's talking about is 6 months, 12 months, when we all talk about leading, lagging indicator, it's all about dialing up your changes or dialing down your changes. Because it's hard for us to just change completely what our behaviors and our routines have been. So the best way to make changes is to make changes with the plan already you have, how you execute on those changes. So that's one thing about mindset, is that you need to start giving yourself a smart goal. These are the changes you're making, but don't change it all tomorrow. How can we roll it out so that we, our business and our personal life and our business life, our team, when we have them, people around us can all adjust with us slowly versus all of a sudden come out, hey, I'm the new long now. This is how we're going to do business. It doesn't happen that way. So that's something that I would encourage people to do on the mindset piece, is be okay to change and evolve all the time. But making a big switch is hard.
Yeah, one thing that brings it really puts things in perspective when you say that, and that's that a lot of us sometimes forget that it's okay to feel like shit sometimes. Because as we transition into who we're going to become, we're breaking down, right? And that breakdown requires a lot of mental shifting, and some of that is hard on us, dude. I've had days where I'm like, okay, what's going on here, and why do I feel like this, right? And that's reality, right? As we shift, we're breaking down, but we're also making massive breakthroughs.
I would actually like to say that I'm glad that you said that, because there's far too many people out there saying, that it makes us feel like we're not allowed to feel like shit for a few minutes. You know what I mean? Because we're all humans. We're not robots, right? We're allowed to have bad days. We're allowed to have bad moments. And just because there's something that upsets us, and for some reason it upsets us maybe longer than it should, doesn't mean that we can't control our mindset. It just means that we're human, right? And so I'm glad that you said that, because I'm just so sick and tired of people going, give it a few minutes and move past it, because sometimes you can't right away, right? And when something like this is happening that no one saw coming, right? It can be really hard for people, right? We didn't see this coming, right? All of a sudden, overnight, we were forced to go, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Because we've never been through this before. What am I going to do? And so we're all figuring this out together. And so if you're judging or shaming people for feeling a certain way, guess what? None of us are experts in this situation. So help each other out.
But I think it comes down to the fact that transformation is never comfortable. I mean, we all kind of fight to stay in our comfort zones naturally. So any transformation is going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be painful. But I think the best advice I can give on that is try to live your life in a way and become better at being comfortable with change, being comfortable with uncertainty, and just rolling with it. And that's more of a philosophy in the way you live your life. I know I've experienced this a lot of times, especially in my younger years. I was so inflexible to change that any change threw me into a tailspin. Now I seem like I'm having major life changes every other month, but I'm just rolling with it so much better because I've actually embraced the idea of change and transformation.
Mike, part of that, Mike, part of what Mike is saying, guys, as you're listening in, and we've got 3 questions I just want to address, but as you're hearing Mike say that, you can transition into living a life of being comfortable with more uncertainty when you actually take time in your schedule to learn new things. Mm-hmm. And so, like, guys, I bought this program called eCam. and it's supposed to help me do lives through Facebook and YouTube and all these other things, and it's supposed to be better. But the learning curve is it's a learning curve, and so the thing is I'm always doing these things and I'm testing new things out. More than half of them, probably like 90% or even more of my ideas and things that I do go to shit. And Nick knows that because Nick and I go between ideas all the time. Nick, what do you think? It's like, oh yeah, and then nothing happens. But we're comfortable with knowing that we're going to fail. And I think the more you do it, the more you get comfortable with uncertainty.
But by the way, everyone's going to fail in this because no one's done this before. Like, no one has done it to this extent. No one's been through it, right? So if someone's saying to you, get over it, or et cetera, no one has been through this before, so no one's an expert. So I just want you guys.
Yeah, I mean, really at the end of the day, right, we're talking about the growth mindset versus fixed mindset. So I think that when we all stop lying to ourselves, that's when you start growing, because you're going to have vulnerability. There's going to be some time when you feel like you screwed up, you're like worth nothing. That's when you're the average of 5 people you hang around with. That's when you reach out to those 5 people to support you and say, hey man, pull me up. I'm having a bad day right now. I'm feeling shitty, It's okay to feel that way. So the growth mindset focuses on the process versus the actual result. So as long as you're growing, like Nick is saying every day,
Process.
it's a process. So that's what mindset's all about.
Guys, we're going to go to a question Isabel has. Now, as you're listening in, I want you to think, well, how can I use what I'm learning here? Why must I use what I'm learning here? And then when will I use this? I think we forget to ask these questions when we're listening to webinars or just learning. Ask those questions. Isabel, we're going to bring you on. And the mic's on your end, Isabel. Let me know I'm seeing you. All right. You can unmute. And
here I am.
there you are, Isabel. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for all what you guys are doing.
No problem. Happy to help. So what's your question for us?
So I have a question. I mean, we're learning all about this virtual thing, and here in New York, we are still quarantined and at home. We cannot even do showings other than virtual showings. And I can deal with a buyer and doing a virtual showing because I can show them the property while I'm chatting and go up and down with the phone and whatnot. But I'm having a difficult time dealing with sellers and doing virtual listings, trying to create that rapport with the seller when I'm not there with them. I'm one of those kind of, huggy touchy kind of person. And if I don't have that with the person, how do I build it?
It's a good question, guys. That's a very valid question. Who wants to take that on?
So I would suggest, Nick, I think you probably got the closest marketplace to what they're dealing with in New York. Maybe you have something to speak to there.
Oh, you mean like not being able to show property?
Yeah, like that, yeah.
Yeah, so in Michigan, we weren't able to show property. Actually on May 7th will be considered essential again. But we weren't able to show property. And so again, what we were doing was agents here were utilizing their sellers, and they were doing Zoom open houses and Zoom showings with their sellers. So much like we're doing now, but their seller would jump on with an iPhone or a laptop, and they would tour the home on one side of the screen, and then the agent would be on the other, and any buyers that wanted to come watch would obviously get a Zoom link and jump in and watch. And they're promoting digital open houses and getting people to join that way through Facebook events and through Eventbrite. And also, so that was very effective. And, I liked that people were embracing that. Houses are still selling. You just weren't able to physically go show them. So that was one of the ways they were getting the homes shown. Also, another way to do it would be to use your seller to kind of shoot a video with their phone and email it to you or text it to you, whatever is best. And on May 7th, when we're essential again, there's still some limitations. We can't hold open houses, and we can't have more than 3 people. We can't have more than 3 buyers, actually 3 people, including the agent, in the home at the same time. So if there's more people, if like a group of 5 show up, only 3 can go in at once, and then the other batch have to go in. So there's still limitations, but you got to think outside the box. Get your sellers on board with jumping on Zoom, if buyers want to take a look, if someone requests to see a house, say, you know what, we're not essential here, but I'm happy to have you jump on a Zoom call with myself and my seller, and they can walk you through the property in video style, and people will do it. Like we said before we jumped on the call, 20% of homes last year sold sight unseen. I mean, I bought my house in Michigan sight unseen. It's doable, right?
Yeah.
You just have to think outside the box. And I heard someone say my buyers will only buy a house that they can physically go in and see. And to people who say that, I say, then you need to prospect for more buyers, because
to find the right
I'm
one.
just saying, how many buyers do you have? Every single one of your buyers? I'm sorry, but I don't think that's possible. Find other buyers that are willing to do it. Run ads on Facebook, make posts, create events, get engagement, right? This is the new norm.
Isabel,
I'm still on yet, but I get that, and I'm comfortable with that with the buyers. That has not been my issue. My issue is trying to make the report with sellers and listing without seeing the house and without having that
got
personal
it.
connection.
Oh, well, you can still
seller.
see the house. You can still see the house. You would just do a video call with them.
So Isabel, I think what Isabel's saying, Isabel, I think what I'm hearing is, I think you need to get comfortable with the process first in order for you to actually feel comfortable doing this. And the number one thing that you can do, and guys, you can add to this if you want, but I'm sensing that she's not comfortable yet. So this is why.
Oh, I got you. Okay, maybe I didn't answer.
Like the listing process, or even getting the listing through that whole process.
Well, I think too, Tristan, I think she's saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the way you're used to doing it with building rapport and just sort of your normal workflow with the seller is changing and is being limited, and you're trying to figure out really how to work within the new confines and still build a solid relationship and feel like you're bringing value. Am I reading that right?
That's correct. That's exactly it.
Okay, so like I think Tristan just tried to, what Tristan was trying to say is, once you become really comfortable with the new process and you surrender to it and say, this is the way that it's going to be, I think that once you're comfortable there and you believe in that, I think you're going to find when you shift that you can build relationships in different ways than you're used to doing. So it's finding the new ways to do so, right? So you mentioned being, touchy-feely, huggy, as you put it, I think was your word. It may be less of that, and it may just be much more empathy and much more relevance in what you're giving them, like for information and in being intuitive of when you should be in contact with them and what information you should be giving. So you might have to shift a little bit in your delivery, but ultimately I believe relationships right now are probably easier to build, I would argue, than harder, because everybody's looking to connect, because of what we're going through. So,
And
Tristan, your thoughts?
I want to add to that, Isabel. I think what you'll find, now I understand the question a lot better. What you'll find is, as you start testing things out, like sending out text with emojis, doing videos, like one of my business partners does eye care videos where they shoot a video just to follow up with you, see how you're doing, send it over to you, where they do FaceTimes with you to talk to you, or you instill those. You start feeling psychologically, you're like, got it. This feels a lot like what I like to feel, which is touchy-feely. This, not so much. And the more you test out and the more you actually outline these things and say, got it, I understand, this is where I'm going to gravitate to, the more clear that'll be and the more comfortable you'll be with the process.
That's great. That's great. I like that eye care video.
Eye care message, yeah.
Yeah, eye care messages. I think that might be exactly what I'm needing and I wasn't doing.
Yeah, just try to make it more you. And I think that's what people are struggling with psychologically. But I think, and this is what we're here for, right? Just to get that going. Isabel, thank you so much for your question. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
It's a great example of change not being comfortable, right? It's different, but it's not always comfortable, but it has to be done. So just get comfortable.
Guys, we started a little late, so we're going to go like 5 extra minutes really quick because we got long and late. So there's a few other questions we do want to answer. There's one by John Hickey. I won't bring him on because it's a pretty quick answer here. I'm converting from top producer to Chime. There are many tools in Chime that will be new. In my experience with a top producer, he just wants to know what he should be looking for, what he should be using. Guys, for those of you who don't know, Chime is a full immersive CRM and marketing platform. So it does what Top Producer does, but it also does what Ylopo does, the marketing part of it, right? And so now that you're switching over, John, there's a few things that stand out because all of us here have Chime, and I'm in the process of going deeper into it. So we just had a meeting with them last week. These are the things you look for. Number one, they just added the feature into their websites where you can pre-schedule live events. So like people are doing live open houses, you can pre-schedule them into Facebook and into YouTube from your websites, and it'll show up on your website. So then you can share it with your friends, share it with your database. That's one thing I would heavily look into because that's where the world
super
is.
awesome.
That is super awesome. Yes. That's one thing that I would do. The other thing I would do is look into how you can start mass texting specific properties to specific people in your CRM. So whether it's a group of past clients, a group of investors. I know in Top Producer, you weren't able to mass text. Here you are. So make sure you are using that feature as much as you can. And then lastly, that comes to mind right now is reverse prospecting. Guys, all of us have a massive database. And when people search for properties in Chime, we can look to see, well, what matches what they're looking for. And these are the 10 people that I just got a new listing. Let's put it in. These 10 people match. I'm going to blast it to those 10 people, right? So it's using your own database on your own listings to be able to bring in more buyers. So make sure that you're using it that way, John. Good question. There's one that I want to bring on. Let's see. I know you hate. Okay. This is a commonly asked question. I'm going to bring her on, Barb Joseph. Barb, let me find you on here. I'm going to bring you on so you can ask your question. Good question, only because it's asked often. Here we go, Barb. I'm going to allow you to talk. All right, the mic controls are on your end.
Hi.
Hi, Barbara. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for asking. But please ask the question again, and then we'll go ahead and try to answer it for you.
Okay. I have a database that's older, and I have people that I have not yet connected with on social media. And I thought when I was comparing database programs that there is one that you can put your database in, and it will go and seek them out on social media for you and connect with you so you can find them. Are any of you aware of that?
Guys?
Pointing at you, Nick.
So I'm sorry. Can you repeat that again? I apologize. My kids are going crazy out there and I was just distracted. Say that again.
I thought that in my research for a database that you could put your SOI in a database and then it would go seek out for you where your clients are on social media so that I don't have to go search them out individually.
Yeah, you want a system that does that. So Follow Up Boss does that. Lion Desk does that. As long as you have as much pertinent information as possible, name, email, phone number, physical address, that type of thing, enough information for to comb social media, and it will pull their social media profiles for you as long as you have enough information. So Raymond, who's watching, said Wise Agent does it as well. Follow Up Boss is a little more expensive, although it's a little bit more robust. But yeah, so Follow Up Boss, Line Desk, Wise Agent. Anything else, guys, that you know that does it? That's just
we all use Follow Up Boss. It's great. Mike?
Yeah, we do. And I like to give an add-on to that. Once they're found, what I like about Ylopo is once your SOI is in there, Ylopo will then start doing remarketing to your SOI with some pretty cool ads as well. So that might be a next step too. Once they're identified, I really like Ylopo for that purpose.
Mike, also on that, because I know we have 3 people that are switching to Chime here. Chime does that as well. So only Ylopo and Chime do the remarketing really well.
To the SOI.
The ones, they don't.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Good question. Great
Well,
question.
they also do it with incoming leads that you might be generating from Facebook or open houses. They'll do it with any incoming leads to your database.
Yep. All right, guys, 2 more minutes. Let's do a speed round of answering the questions that are left. Here we go. John Hickey, can you suggest a path to introduce features into my business? Go.
What are we looking at features?
I'm assuming new things into their business. So things that are coming up that they should be watching out for, like maybe virtual tours type thing.
Gotcha. One thing that we implemented, it's not cheap, is predictive analytics. That's been something that we've been very effective with. Tracking people's life events, for example, if we should be focusing on that may be moving in the next 6 months. That's been really productive for us.
Perfect. Here's another one. Oh, they want the scripts, so we'll get those in a little bit. Paula asks, do you guys have advice on hiring an assistant at this time? I need a techie assistant to help with all of this stuff.
Well, I would, depending on where you are in your business, depending on what your production looks like, I would look at a virtual assistant. There's a ton of them who are really, who are trained very highly on the most popular CRMs out there. One that we like is Virtue Desk. There's My Outdesk. They all know how to use the most popular CRMs, so you wouldn't even have to teach them. You just tell them what you want, and they would go and do it. So, and it's more cost effective than having someone next to you, figuratively, right? But that's where I would go, because they're a lot of them are techie. I mean, I know the guys at the ones at Virtue Desk are really techie. They know how to use all that stuff.
And I'll tell you, we've got, I think, nine now virtual assistants through My Outdesk, which they run our entire business. It's just ridiculous how much they do and how good they are. So I agree.
Yeah,
100%.
that's actually a really good point, Mike. We have 11 on between, we use Virtue Desk, but we have 11 between lab code agents and Nick, I called you Tristan, that was a weird thing. Between Nick and mine businesses, which is a weird thing.
Nice.
Long, this is a question for you from Brian Engel. Love the idea of focusing on leading indicators. We're looking for ways to use video now, COVID. Market updates have helped show we're still active, but we're looking for more empathetic ideas.
Yeah. Unless this is a different Brian Engel, I think we have one here at Realty Group, Mike. So I don't know if that's our.
It is. I saw he's from Andover. It's our Brian Engel. It's all right.
But I would recommend being hyper localist, right? Because like Nick's market's going to be different than Tristan, different than someone else. So let's be hyper local to your market to talk about, be empathetic about what's going on right now. And so that's what I would do. Maybe go out and talk to some business owner to see what they're going through. Maybe pick out a few of the people that they're worried about being out and having face masks. So that's just kind of stuff I would probably do.
I would also look at possibly interviewing some buyers who just closed, what the process was like, going through it right now. Maybe asking, 3 same questions to 3 different buyers you worked with recently and seeing how they answer it. And that would make for good content. Yeah, because this is one of those topic, guys, almost like religion or politics. People are so divided. Something is Armageddon, something is no big deal at all. It's actually somewhere in the middle, right? So you don't want to pick one side or the other. You're gonna offend probably the other half.
That's a good point, guys. And one thing that we're shifting to is having our whole team do email newsletters through MailChimp, because MailChimp is free up to 2,000 people. But we're using a website called Curbed. You've heard of Curbed, curbed.com. And we're having a lot of data there that we can use. Here, I'll put the link up there. But we go there every day. We can grab some information, very localized information for us. And it only covers the bigger metropolitan cities, so watch for that. But then we can do a quick video. We can grab an article. We can do things that we can reuse information there and put it into our newsletter. So that's one thing we're doing. So guys, the last thing I want to leave everybody with is, if anybody wanted you to answer here, Long, Mike, Nick, scripts, when it comes to online leads coming in during this time, anybody we want to take that?
So when you're saying scripts, online leads coming in, you mean how we're approaching it, the specific scripts?
Yeah, like when we're calling up and having a conversation with them or even a text, how does that look?
I don't think the framework, changes too much of what the call is, but I think some of the conversation pieces will. I think you definitely got to check for their timeline and intention, how soon they're looking to move, what their intention is, and you have to kind of judge, where they simmer on how concerned they are with COVID. Some people aren't that concerned at all, and especially it's market specific. Markets like ours, I think we're number 35 in the state for active cases. We were last time I looked. People are a little less concerned maybe than places like New York. So I think you have to be, judging it market specific, but you have to really be looking at how concerned the buyer or seller is, and you can't be pushing your own agenda. That's one of the big things I can say.
All right. Any approach, guys, with the right verbiage, script wise, like, hey, this is Tristan with Keller Williams Realty, blah blah blah, crap.
Well, if they're incoming leads and they're requesting information on a property, is that kind of what we're talking about?
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, if they're incoming leads and they're requesting information on a property, I would definitely have more of that conversation, and I would suggest, moving to FaceTime or Zoom, some face-to-face, so you can get to know them a little bit better, because if you're non-essential, it's going to be hard to go show that property. If you are essential, you want to be as safe as you possibly can. So doing in-person buyer consultations may not be your best bet. So I would suggest, hey, listen, I'd like to chat with you a little bit more and get to know you. Do you mind if we switch to FaceTime or Google Duo or Zoom?
That's actually a good point, dude. I didn't think about that before. I like that.
And then if they are, if you are able to show homes, it's really a matter of first of all, how comfortable you are. You have to put your health and safety first, and respect the social distancing guidelines by doing as much as you can this way. And so just explain to them, the new norm, how houses are being shown, how inspections are being done, et cetera, et cetera. Just give them the expectations up front. And this is your opportunity right now, while, companies like Zillow are pulling back. This is your opportunity to now be the expert, because nobody really knows, and Zillow doesn't know how to guide them through this new world, right? Yep. So it's a great opportunity.
Great point, man.
And with suggesting this type of conversation is being empathetic, right? You don't know what situation they've been in. You don't know if they were sick or if they lost somebody. You don't want to be overly zealous and be like, hey, great, let's go and we'll just go see this house. What if someone close to them, got sick and passed away? You just want to assume the worst, and that way, this way, you're expressing your empathy right off the bat by suggesting we do this, as opposed to meet in person until we absolutely have to.
That's such a good point, man.
And I think the framework of any good, lead conversion conversation, COVID or not, is not to dominate the conversation. It's to ask questions, listen, and respond, right? So, I mean, they're going to let you know generally what their comfort levels are. If you're suggesting to, like Nick's saying, if you're overzealous trying to get them to look at a house and all you care about is booking the appointment and pushing them to go do something, that's the wrong way to go. But, ask questions, listen, respond, and react based on what you're hearing. You're going to find certain people that want to go do something right now. Other people are going to straight up tell you that I want to wait this out and see what happens. But yes, I'm interested in buying in the next few months. You just have to let them tell you and guide you what direction to go.
Very good point, guys. Join us tomorrow at 9. I'm going to do one more thing before we let you go. But tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central. I don't know. Am I right, Central? Is that Central?
Yep,
and then 12 p.m. Eastern. I have no idea.
You're such a world traveler, Tristan.
Whatever, Mike. 9 a.m. my time, which is Pacific, every day this week, all four of us, maybe minus me, maybe minus Nick, but Mike or one of us or all four of us will be on. And we'll be answering questions. Tomorrow, guys, I want to start off by diving directly into scripts, like verbal scripts. Like, I want to play this out with Long and Mike and Nick. I want to be like, you guys be the buyers and sellers. I want to talk to you. And then I want to run a for sale by owner script by you too. Let's start off with that tomorrow in the morning. And then we'll go, guys. I put the link for tomorrow's coaching, speed coaching. Please register. I also put it onto Facebook. Anything you guys want to leave everybody here with?
Yeah, I'd like to say we had over 100 people on the webinar today, and I don't know how many on Facebook, but it may be our biggest Ask
100.
Sleeping Coaching Day.
We had 100 on there too. So we had 200 guys. So we named Ylopo.com, Chime.me, M-E, right? Virtue Desk, that's the one we use for our virtual assistants. We also named Follow Up Boss. Guys, we talked about dynamic ads for real estate there through Chime and Ylopo. And then we mentioned curb.com. That was a website. And then at the very beginning, I mentioned one book that I'm reading. I'm halfway through this one. It's called Limitless by Jim Quick. Just came out last week. That's where I got the information for in regards to 70,000 thoughts, up to 70,000 thoughts in a day. So guys, thanks. A lot of good stuff.
Thanks.
Awesome. I had a good time.
I love your shirt, Nick.
Thanks, dude. See you tomorrow.
See you guys.
See you guys.